Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Church of St. Louis. My name is Nita Penfold, and my pronouns are she and hers. I'm a member of the worship committee. We are glad you could join us this Sunday, either in person or online. If you are a visitor or newcomer, I'd like to extend a special welcome. And if you are new to the congregation, be sure to fill out a newcomer form found in the live stream description or in the lobby of the church. Please join us for coffee and conversation in Fellowship Hall downstairs after the service. If you are attending online, you can connect with each other in the chat. And don't forget that the link for virtual coffee hour can be found in your weekly e-news. We welcome families with children. Families with children are invited to connect with the RE committee after the service for more information about our RE program. There are several announcements this morning. Are you interested in participating in a moment of reflection and ritual? Do you want to engage in a spiritual practice that honors both our confusion and our wisdom? Do you like smashing pottery? If you have answered yes to any of these questions, then you may want to join Reverend Sabrina in a ceremony to hallow these uncertain times. Today and April 6th, we will be conducting the Broken Whole Bowl ritual at 11:30 in the chapel. And if you didn't bring materials for it, Reverend Sabrina has extra ones that you can use. So please join us. The nominations committee is back, and we are looking for you. If anyone is interested in serving on the board or the council, or just want to talk about leadership in the church, please reach out to the nominations committee. We are looking for volunteers to assist Mo in the tech booth on Sundays. If you're interested in helping out, please find Mo after the service or email him at mhurst@firstuustlewis.org. Your support is greatly appreciated. And we are also looking for storytellers for the Time for All Ages. Please get in contact with Steve Wilkie if you have an interesting story to tell, and we will find a place for you. Have you signed up for the Friday e-news? Probably have since you're here. It's a great way to get all the details on events and opportunities available here at First Unitarian Church of St. Louis. Welcome again to this religious community where we affirm the worth and dignity of all who enter. We gather in community, understanding we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, identity, and theology. Our values invite us to a shared journey of truth and meaning-making. Together, we foster a spirit of gratitude and generosity so that all may feel welcome and all can thrive. We are glad you are with us this morning. Please enjoy our prelude, interlude by William Boyce, performed by Alan Hoffman on the organ.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Sabrina Trupia, and my pronouns are they, them. I serve this congregation as sabbatical minister. We begin today with a call to worship by Lindsay Bates. Let us open our minds to the challenge of reason, open our hearts to the healing of love, open our lives to the calling of conscience, open our souls to the comfort of joy, astonished by the miracle of life, grateful for the gift of fellowship, confident in the power of living faith. We're here gathered. Come, let us worship together. Now please rise in body or spirit and join us for our hymn of the month, number 347, Gather the Spirit.
Lord.
we light our chalice with words by Pat Uribe Lichty, "We will be renewed." We come together bringing all of who we are, trusting that in gathering we will be renewed, and that together we can create the world we long for.
Kids, and I see unfish fry people. So unfish fry people, you count. Come, come, come. Okay, so I have to cop to something. I was on vacation last week, got back Friday morning, and didn't get the slides to Mo, so I just have a book. So everyone put on your church binoculars, right? Can everyone see it? No? We don't have church binoculars anymore? Okay, well, fine. Okay, this is called Minglo Moves the Mountain, and the prompt I got was this should be a story about miracles. And when I was very young, my preschool teacher read this story to the entire preschool class, and we all sat there, and of course we were preschoolers, and we're going, oh, read the story, okay, cool, cool. And then she got to the end, and she goes, so how did Minglo move the mountain? And we all went, huh? So she read it again. I'm not going to read it twice, but just keep in mind, we're going to move a mountain, and hopefully you guys can figure out how that actually happened. Minglo and his wife lived in a house at the bottom of a large mountain. They loved their house, but they did not love the mountain. Rocks and stones broke loose from the cliffs. They dropped down onto the house of Minglo. The roof was full of holes. Clouds formed on the top of the mountain. Heavy rains fell from the clouds onto the roof that was full of holes. The rooms inside were damp and drippy. When the sun did shine, it never warmed the house of Minglo. The mountain always cast a dark shadow. The flowers and vegetables in the garden grew thin and sparse. This mountain brings us nothing but unhappiness, said the wife of Minglo. Husband, which is how you refer to your husband, you must move the mountain so that we may enjoy our house in peace. My dear wife, how can one small man such as I move a large mountain such as this? How should I know, said his wife. There is a wise man who lives in the village. Go ask him. Minglo hurried to the village. When he found the wise man, he said, I want to move the mountain that is near my house. The wise man thought for a long time. Wisps of smoke curled from his pipe. Finally, he said, go home, Minglo. Cut down the tallest, thickest tree you can find. Push this tree against the side of the mountain with all your strength. That is the way you will move the mountain. Minglo ran home. He cut down the tallest, thickest tree he could find. Minglo and his wife held tightly to the tree. Running as fast as they could run, they pushed the tree against the side of the mountain. The tree split in half. Minglo and his wife fell on their heads. The mountain did not move an inch. Go back to the wise man, said the wife of Minglo. Ask him to think of another way to move the mountain. Again, the wise man thought for a long time. Rings of smoke blew from his pipe. Finally, he said, "Go home, Minglo. Take the pots and pans from your kitchen. Hold a spoon in each of your hands. With these spoons, hit the pots and pans as hard as you can. Raise your voice in loud shouts and cries. The mountain will be frightened by the noise. This is how you move the mountain." We saved you a spot. Minglo ran home. He took the pots and pans from his kitchen. Minglo and his wife held a spoon in each of their hands. They shouted and cried. They hit the pots and pans as hard as they could. They made a great noise. Flocks of birds flew out of the trees, but the mountain did not move at all. "Go back to the wise man," cried the wife of Minglo. "We must find a way to move the mountain." "Help me to move this mountain so that I may enjoy my house in peace," cried Minglo. The wise man sat deep in thought for a long, long time. There was so much smoke coming from his pipe that he could hardly be seen, which you could all see if I had done, that stuff. Okay. Finally, he said, "Go home, Minglo. Take your house apart, stick by stick. Gather all these sticks that are the pieces of your house. Collect all of the things that are your possessions. Bind everything into bundles with rope and twine. Carry these bundles into your arms and onto the top of your head. Face the mountain and close your eyes." "Having done all this," said the wise man, "you will step to the dance of the moving mountain. You will put your left foot in a place that is in the back of your right foot. Then you will put your right foot in a place that is in the back of your left foot. You must do this again and again for many hours. When you open your eyes," someone's figured it out, "you will see that the mountain has moved far away. This is a strange dance." You're giving it away, you guys. "This is a strange dance," said Minglo, "but if it takes the mountain to move, I will do it all at once." Minglo ran home. He took his house apart stick by stick. He gathered all the sticks and collected all of the things that were his possessions. Minglo and his wife bound everything into bundles with rope and twine. They carried the bundles in their arms and on the tops of their heads. Then Minglo showed his wife how to do the dance of the moving mountain. They faced the mountain and closed their eyes. Carefully, they began to move their feet to the steps of the dance. I won't do it for several hours. They each put their left foot in place that was behind their right foot. Then they put their right foot in a place that was behind their left foot. The neighbors saw Minglo and his wife walking backwards across the fields with all of their possessions. It was an odd sight, and they watched in wonder. And many hours had passed. Minglo and his wife opened their eyes. "Look," cried Minglo, "our dance has done its work. The mountain has moved far away." Stick by stick, they rebuilt their home. They unpacked all of their possessions and made themselves at home. Minglo and his wife lived the rest of their lives under an open sky and a warm sun. When rain fell, it came down gently on a roof that had no holes. They often looked at the mountain that was small in the distance. There was happiness in their hearts, for they both knew that they had made the mountain move.
So he just closed his eyes, and the wise man just told him to walk backwards. So he just walked away from the mountain.
So did the mountain move? He moved?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I was 4 when I figured it out. Okay, so. All right, let's take you guys off the bus.
Chapel.
To chapel.
In the seaward.
In the chapel area.
When we are present to each other's joys and concerns, we affirm each other's humanity. Being seen and accepted in moments of struggle and celebration is how we build community. Now is the time in our service when we connect with one another, sharing our sorrows and concerns. We're wishing Joan Oliver a speedy recovery. She's home after an adverse reaction to a heart condition treatment. And we remember with great sadness Rena Chesla, who recently passed away. Her memorial was last week at Tower Grove Park. From online, there is one concern that there is so much hard right now. Amen. So much hard. We hold these concerns with tenderness and compassion. May they be lighter because they're shared. As a community, we also share our joys and celebrations with one another. Peter Crumpler shares the joy of a new job. Sarah and Joe Francois just celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary. Congratulations. Somebody received a long-awaited promotion at work. Somebody is expressing gratitude for orthopedic surgeons. Yes, things are working as they are. And Jess and Mish Green welcomed a healthy baby girl, Ramona, on March 14th. Everybody's doing fine. Congratulations. Yay. And so we lift up these joys with gladness and celebration. May they be magnified because they are shared. With many joys and concerns remaining unspoken in our hearts and minds, please join me in a spirit of prayer and meditation. Today, we're doing a meditation on love. This is adapted from Thomas Finley, who used to be a Trappist monk, but isn't anymore, apparently. And he used to be a student of Thomas Merton, who's kind of famous Trappist monk. Quietly focusing your attention on your breathing is a way of slowing down and settling into a meditative awareness and connecting to oneness and universal love. So let's get comfortable. If you need to, close your eyes, but you don't have to. And let's begin. Breathing in, be quietly aware of breathing in. Breathing out, be quietly aware of breathing out. Each time you realize you've drifted off into thoughts as you're breathing in and out, memories, thoughts, sensations, simply return to the breathing as your anchoring place in the present moment. Let us now pair our attention to breathing with the phrase, I love you. As you inhale, listen to this silent I love you, a sustaining love pouring itself out and giving itself to you as the gift and miracle of your very life. As you exhale yourself, give yourself to a whispered I love you that connects you to universal love. If feelings, bodily pain, thoughts come welling up within you as you're doing this practice, let your next inhalation be your way of receiving yourself into this love. As you exhale, let your exhalation be your way of giving yourself back to the infinite love. Sit this way with all your heart, knowing and trusting that in this reciprocity of love, your destiny in love is being fulfilled. You are part of the oneness. You may practice this I love you prayer in little moments in your life as you go through the day. And it is by the way of this meditation that you can learn that love alone has the authority to name who you really are and are called to be in the midst that all the life sends your way. And now you may gently return to your natural state of non-meditation. Open your eyes as we continue.
Ahoy. I'm Emily J. Cox. My pronouns are she, hers, or captain, and I'm here to give you a Canvas update. So far, we have heard from 104 households and have received over $355,000. Towards our goal of $450,000, that's a stretch goal, there are about 70 households we have not yet heard from. I want to break this down a little bit more. Of the pledges we've received so far, if you want to help along when I do my hand, you can go, that's awesome. So we have 2 new pledges. That's awesome. We have 43 increased pledges.
That's awesome.
This one may surprise you. We have 10 decreased pledges. And you know why that's awesome? Is because even if someone's circumstances have changed, they've nonetheless made a financial contribution to the church. That's a position, in my opinion, of great integrity. So that's also awesome. And we have 49 households who have kept their pledges the same as last year. So if you haven't pledged before, or it's been a few years, you've kind of fallen off, and you're like, well, where do I even start? We're a very diverse group in terms of our involvement, in terms of our capacity. Annual pledges to our church range from the 3 figures to the 5 figures. That's a huge range. So what are you supposed to do with that? It could be helpful for you to know that our median pledge, like right in the middle, is $1,250 a year, and our most common pledge is $1,200 a year, so $100 a month. That may not be your lane, but just I wanted to put that out there for food for thought. So if you have not yet pledged for this year, we're not looking for your payments to start now. They start in July, and that you can pick the frequency and the method of payment. What we're looking for today is just to know what you're planning to do, what your commitment is. We have 2 ways we do that. We have a cute little card, which I'll show you downstairs if you come find me after the service. If you're more of an electronic person, you can open any recent email from the church and you'll find a button that says Pledge Online. If you're not sure what you pledged last year, come and see me and I can look it up for you. Now I'm going to turn this over to my co-captain.
Good morning. My name's Erin Milligan, she, hers, captain. Good idea, Emily. I have the pleasure of drawing the raffle this morning. The winner will receive a beautiful hand-knitted hat from Kathy Rausch, who is sick today, so please keep her in your thoughts. She will be delivering the hat next week. I myself have a beautiful hand-knitted hat from Kathy Rausch, and I wear it when I'm not wearing my captain's hat. Do you want to do a drum roll? It makes it more festive. And the winner is Lori Calcaterra. Lori, are you here today? I don't see you, but you're the big winner, so we will be in touch with you about your gorgeous new hat. Now I would like to welcome Michael Hamtel to the stage to share with us this week's Canvas affirmation. Thank you all.
Hello, everybody. I am Michael Hamtel. This is my first time up here, so hopefully you can hear me all right. I have been coming to this church for about 4 years. I am a St. Louis native, but I lived all over, and it's while my family and I were in the course of moving around the country that I found my way to Unitarian Universalism at a church in Dallas about 20 years ago. And then eventually we moved back here in 2021. The first year I was here, it was interesting because it was still COVID times. So we were meeting online and in parking lots. That made it a little bit difficult to get to know people. The second year I was here, I raised my hand and started volunteering to teach in the RE classroom. And that year I was doing it every Sunday, all through the whole year, so I was never in the sanctuary. The third year felt like my first year here because I finally got to come and sit among all of you and start to get to know some of the people. Now, as I start my fourth year, I am apparently qualified to stand up here and speak to you all. A few weeks ago, co-captain Jay Cox asked me to do an affirmation, which I think means to tell you just a little bit about my story about why I even come to this congregation. The main reason that I come here is simply because a UU church is the place that I feel I fit in the best. I grew up Catholic, and while it has been a long time since that was part of my life, a real formative idea for me in my youth was that I needed to be able to question the ideas and the teachings in order to be able to find my own truth. That, of course, is a hallmark of the UU model, and one big thing that I celebrate about this religion. The second big reason that I'm here is simply because I'm a dad. After our kids were born down in Dallas, my wife and I thought about how we wanted them to grow up, and for me that meant making sure that they were in very supportive environments at home, at school, at church, and in their neighborhoods. On the church front, to me, that meant finding them a safe and an engaging place where they could follow their own journeys on their own searches for meaning. A place that would encourage them to do that freely. Of course, that's what UUism is all about. One of the things I've learned about being UU is that it works a bit better if you do something more than just come to church on Sunday. For me, that has most often looked like volunteering to help support the things that I want my kids to have available to them. At school, I stepped up to help start their gardening program. On the soccer field, I raised my hand to help coach their teams. Around town, I raised my hand to help support our neighborhood associations. And here at church, I stepped up when they needed volunteers to teach RE. In doing that, I found my own sense of reward, like I was actually doing something to help create the kind of world that I would want to live in. A world that says that all people have inherent worth and dignity, a world that says justice, fairness, and compassion are worth working for, and a world that accepts and supports others on their own searches for meaning. That's the world that exists in this congregation. but it's a world that only exists because each of you helped to build it and continue to keep helping to keep it going. Thank you for being a part of moving the mountain by walking the walk and by giving of your time, your talents, and your treasure.
The First Unitarian Church of St. Louis strives to be a welcoming congregation, inspiring lives of loving kindness and integrity by nurturing spirituality, building community, and advancing justice. Your contributions support the mission and ministry of this congregation in the St. Louis region and beyond.
If I needed you, would you come to me? Would you come to me for to ease my pain? If I needed me, I would come to you. I would swim the seas for to ease your pain. Well, the night's forlorn, and the morning's born, and the morning shines with the lights of love. And you'll miss sunrise if you close your eyes, and that would break my heart in two. If I needed you, would you come to me? Would you come to me for to ease my pain? If I needed me, I would come to you. I would swim the seas for to ease your pain. Baby's with me now since I showed her to lay hand in mine. Who would agree she's a sight to see, a treasure from the born to find. If I needed you, would you come to me? Would you come to me for to ease my pain? If you needed me, I would come to you. I would swim the seas for to ease your pain.
Thank you. For all your gifts of time, talent, and treasure, we thank you all. We have two readings today. The first reading is from the Gospel according to Mark in the translation by the authors of the book Mark as Story, David Rhodes, Johanna Dewey, and Donald Mitchie. This translation emphasizes the storytelling of this gospel, and thus it doesn't have chapter and verse marked, like it would be in the Christian Bible. But the Christian Bible puts the start of this story in Mark at chapter 1, verse 21. And they entered into Capernaum, and immediately on the Sabbath he entered into the synagogue and began teaching. And people were astounded by his teaching, for he was teaching them as one having authority and not like the legal experts. And immediately in their synagogue was a man with an unclean spirit, and it screamed out, saying, "What do you have against us, Jesus Nazarene? Did you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." And Jesus rebuked it, saying, "Shut up and get out of him." And the unclean spirit, convulsing the man and crying in a loud cry, came out of him. And everyone was so astonished that they were arguing among themselves, saying, "What is this? A new teaching with authority? He gives orders even to the unclean spirits, and they obey him." And the report about him immediately went out everywhere into the whole surrounding countryside of Galilee. The second reading is from Anne Lamont's book, Help, Thanks, Wow, the Three Essential Prayers. I wish I had a magic wand and I could tap my friend on the head with it, and the cancer would be gone, and her kids would get to grow up with a mother. Even better, I wish God had a magic wand. I have never seen even evidence of it, but as I have written in various other places, I have seen miracles, although they take too long to make themselves known, if you ask me.
Welcome to the third act of the hero's journey, the return. And if you haven't been here for all three sermons, don't worry, they're separate sermons. But in this act, we, the UU hero, practice and or understand what we learn in the other two acts. Again, don't worry about it because you're going to learn something anyway. I have known that I wanted to give this sermon for months, even before I knew that I was coming here to give it. But it seems all the more fitting now as the present situation calls us to action in a more urgent fashion than even 3 months ago. So let us journey once more inside the message of trusting our faith, and let us use it as a foundation for how we're called to move into the world. Because as I frequently say, theology is worthless unless it moves us to act. I'm the type of person who prays. I am also the type of person who used to be embarrassed to admit to praying. And that's because UUs tend to look at prayers with a critical eye. And I didn't want to be seen as this phony, pious person, kind of believing in a Santa-like God. I've since grown out of that embarrassment. I just admitted that I pray. I have learned from Anne Lamott. That's a great book. It's very short, about an hour read. I do write prayers, and I do pray as a spiritual practice. But have you noticed today we didn't pray? I still have some hang-ups when it comes to prayer. For instance, off-the-cuff prayers. In interfaith circles, the type of circles that ministers go to and that include prayer circles, I am typically awkward and reluctant to confess that I don't know what to say, but it's too much to say pass, because if you're in a prayer circle, it's usually an all hands on deck kind of thing. Somebody needs our urgent help. But when I'm asked to pray an impromptu prayer, my intentions are very good, and yet I end up sounding deranged, which in prayer terms means that I often sound like a business letter. Dear God, or God of many names, as per my prior prayer, please help our friend who needs help. We lift their sad story to you, God of many names, for your consideration. Please hold them in love and light. Best regards, amen. Yeesh. For me, prayer takes time, the time to reflect and really feel the intention and the depth of the subject, a slow spiritual practice. Prayer to me is more like poetry, and Mary Oliver has a book on how to write poetry. And she says in that book that poetry takes time and reflection and editing. Lots and lots of editing. I mean, her poem, Wild Geese, if you know it's in the Gray Hymnal, was definitely not written during an impromptu prayer circle. Anyway, isn't this sermon supposed to be about miracles? Why am I talking about prayer? Because in my mind, of course, there's a connection between prayers and miracles. In case you're going to zone out during the sermon, here's the too long didn't read bottom line conclusion up front. So there's no surprises. Do prayers work? Yes, if we know what they are. Do miracles work or exist even? Yes, if we know what a miracle is. The end. Go back to zoning out. And now, what the connection between miracles and prayer looks like to me has changed over the years, especially in recent years due to this whole being a minister thing. For instance, I don't think that prayer is wish fulfillment. A few years ago, Rabbi Tanya Rottenberg said the following: God is not a man in the sky with a pair of dice trying to decide if you'll get cancer or a good parking spot today, and who might throw some good stuff at you if you pray enough to do the right stuff. Just say no, she says, to vending machine theology. Some of you might recognize Rabbi Dania because her book on repentance and repair was one of the UU Common Reads a few years back, maybe last year, I don't remember. But at the time that quote came out, I was in seminary and I was developing my own understanding of the theology that I have. And of course, when you're in a ministerial formation, this is kind of expected of you. You have to have your ducks in a row, your ideas straightened out. But I think it's healthy for all of us to consider our theologies, and what I mean by that is the answers to the very big questions. It is important because, as I said before, our theologies are what move us to act in the world. So recording it, knowing it, is a useful reminder of what we are about and what we want to act on. And this is good, especially in difficult times, like now. So anyway, that quote by Rabbi Dania, just say no to vending machine theology, pushed me to examine my ideas about prayer. So I don't think of God as an anthropomorphic entity. I don't think of God as omnipotent. We talked about it last week. I think of God as having some limitations with respect to traditional view, but I like that because limitations give us the ability to choose as humans. I like that. So since I think that God is a process, it makes sense to me that although infinite, God would not be the bestower of prizes and punishments. Prayer has become to me, the idea of prayer is a conversation, a grounding, a way to accept reality. It is not prayer for or prayer to, it's prayer with. So miracles are right out, right? No. No, miracles also exist in my mind, but they aren't wish fulfillment either. And that's the other piece about seminary. I took a class on the gospel according to Mark, you might have guessed it from the reading, and that changed everything. My theological ducks were no longer in a row during that class. They probably weren't even ducks anymore. I felt kind of immured, but in a good way. Yeah, here's what happened. My professor, Dr. Letzum, said something that is still with me. An aha moment, something that sparked thought. When I questioned her with my, UU-style process theology-laden skepticism about the miracles that we were reading about in the Gospel of Mark, she said, a miracle is not a request or a wish fulfilled. A miracle can be an unexpected occurrence, not something magical or supernatural, simply something unexpected. Wait, what? Okay, let's get into it. But I'm going to take a step back. I want to describe the circumstances that led me to this revelation. This class that I took was taught through two approaches: narrative criticism and socio-literary or political interpretation. What even does that mean? Well, it means that before we even began reading the Gospel of Mark, the scope of the class eliminated all those classical notions of any gospel or any New Testament writing, which is like that God wrote it directly, that, all the things, that there's magicalness. And we treated it as a story, like a novella, a piece of theater. And we started asking, what can we learn from this story? What is the social location of the characters in this story? Who was the audience? Who was this written for? What burdens does the audience carry as they sit down or stand up to listen to the storyteller that is telling them this story? And what is the message? And finally, is there anything we today, 2,000 years later, can apply and learn from this work? So this type of interpretive work is about the message, but also about the rhetoric, and also about the historical context. And this is a great way to present biblical studies to UUs, or at least to me. The furthest possible away from the idea that God himself guided the hand that they wrote with the pen, those sacred images. Maybe even away from that idea of vending machine theology. But why even I care about this today? Because there are ways that if we use these methods that we can interpret Scripture that can model for us what we can do today. And it gives an entry into understanding what miracles actually are. The way my professor explained it, that makes sense to me today. So when we read Mark, which is pretty short, the shortest of the Gospels, we find that it's chock full of miracles. My professor said they're an unexpected event. I will go further and say they are something unexpected that seeks to solve injustice and expose the oppression that is happening. A miracle in the Gospel of Mark unmasks inequality. The passage we read today contained a special kind of miracle, an exorcism. It's not the loaves and the fishes. Exorcisms are very common in this gospel. And what would be easy to ask, and simplistic, in fact, not easy, is what does this miracle correspond to in real life? Like, is the story telling us that Jesus became the possessed man's therapist? Or did he give him something to eat or drink that made him feel better, calmed him down? This reduction to the ordinary is a way to interpret Scripture, and it's known as demythologizing, but it's not really what I want to talk about, because ultimately it does not offer an interpretation that motivates us to use the story as an example of praxis, something that allows us to put some abstract teaching into practice. The big question then becomes, what do these miracles represent? Why are they necessary for this storytelling? So here's my interpretation. Frantz Fanon was an Afro-Caribbean psychiatrist of the 20th century who studied and wrote in the field that today is called community psychology. He looked at the effects of structural injustice on mental illness. He has a quote that seems relevant to the story we're talking about today, the exorcism in the synagogue. In his book, De Hospitalization, he wrote, "Mental illness presents itself as a veritable pathology of liberty." A veritable pathology of liberty. What he means to say is that when people are not free, they don't feel good about not being free. In antiquity, of course, people did not speak of mental illness. But we know that those at the margins, which were the people that Jesus spoke to, or at least that Jesus, we know, spoke to, were definitely not free, and they were bound to suffer psychologically. Hence the description of possession. So the miracle is not that Jesus healed that guy. The miracle is Jesus interrupted what Fanon terms the colonization of the mind, the violence, both physical and psychological, that comes from existing in a situation of continued repression and suppression. What Jesus does, is less important than the fact that he did it in public. He healed him in front of people, offering an example of connection and a glimpse of what life could look like, free of the demons of oppression. That is why the scribes, which in our reading were called the legal experts, just to give you the sense of what a scribe represented in that time, that's why the scribes kind of get mad at him. That's what starts his whole persecution. Chapter 1. They were mad because we can't have solidarity in the unwashed masses. Otherwise, how can we control them and exploit them? Throughout the story, Jesus is on the run from the legal expert and the authorities because he's threatening the status quo, because he says things like the Sabbath was made for humanity and not humanity for the Sabbath, and calls the Pharisees hypocrites. And while on the run, he still finds time to help as many people as he can in as public a way as he can. The miracles then are the connections, the presence of solidarity, and the persistence of praxis. But the miracles of connection and solidarity of the dispossessed come with a price tag. And that is why Jesus is on the run and hiding for most of that gospel, because he knows that subverting the status quo will cost him. Even if you don't know the story, which I think most of us know, it doesn't take a psychic to see that the authorities are coming for him. And when they finally catch up, with the help of informers, no miracle can save him, conventionally. Jesus dies like a common criminal with people jeering at him. And the Gospel of Mark is the one that ends on a cliffhanger. No resurrection, just an exhortation to go back to Galilee where it all started. Yikes. That doesn't seem uplifting. And that is probably why someone, I don't know who, decades later added a couple of chapters to the end of this gospel, because they wanted an happy ending with the resurrection and all. And also, I think they didn't like the fact that the last characters in the cliffhanger were women, not the apostles. But that's just me. So it's not very uplifting. So what is the reason why people back then would have wanted to listen to this story? Because you know that if it came to us written down, that it was important. Writing things down was time-consuming and expensive, and it wasn't done for everything. So the fact that we have this gospel means something, doesn't it? Do we think that the story was about asking the audience to be ready to be like Jesus and die for the revolution? Or was the story maybe saying, look at the transformation that happened because this guy Jesus taught people to resist and to take care of each other? And it is this resistance and connection which gave the marginalized people of the time their well-being in the story. It gave them food, the loaves and the fishes. It gave them health, the healing of the blind man and the person that couldn't walk. This story might teach the audience to trust the miracle of relationship. It works for us too. And I understand that it might not work for everyone. This is old material. So what can we do when we don't want to read about Jesus' miraculous revolutionary adventures? Mr. Rogers has the famous quote, in difficult times, look for the helpers, which I've seen posted on social media a lot. It's a great quote if you're looking for something to say to little kids when they are scared about big world events like 9/11. I mean, Mr. Rogers was all about speaking to the kids. That makes sense. The thing that doesn't get emphasized enough when this gets quoted on social media is that the adults are the helpers. The kids can look to a trusted adult to help them in times of trouble. But to whom do the helpers look? When we want to transform the story of our times, that is when transformation starts to feel risky, and we might become afraid. In difficult times, it's tempting to want to look for someone else to do it. But the miracle can only be trusted when we take responsibility ourselves. We are the helpers. We have to help each other. And I mean this in a literal sense. And the other night I was in a meeting and everybody was expressing a longing for connection, for community, including me, because we need that, right? So one way that we can act with our theological understanding is to make an effort. It's a small thing, to make an effort to get to know each other more and to extend the network of humans we know. Let's say we go for coffee or at a march. Let's turn around, take a moment to chat with people you don't know. Yes, it will be awkward. I promise you that. But let's do it anyway. Getting to know each other is the first step. It's what gets us ready to help each other. Doing miracles in public. We can help each other make sense of what's going on by not knowing, by admitting that we don't know everything, by saying, I don't know how the story ends. Because with relationship and connection, we know that a better way is possible. And when we do this getting to know each other and helping each other in uncertain times, a miracle happens. We are transformed. So can we trust miracles? Yeah. Miracles are resistance, resilience, a new way of seeing reality around us. Miracles are a disruption of the status quo. Miracles are an ethic of risk. Miracles preside to our transformation that we may best handle the uncertain, rickety, weird, scary present we're facing. So may it be. And now please rise, embody your spirit, and join in the closing hymn, number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. It's not the one in your order of service. I apologize for that. You know, it works the other way around too. That's great. It's a miracle. So I want to close today with words by Theodore Parker, who describes this faith of ours which makes us gather every Sunday and engage our hearts and minds, and then when we go out, engage us to put our hearts and minds in the service of love. He says, be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere, its temple all space, its shrine the good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual, works of love, its profession of faith, divine living. Go in peace. You may be seated for the postlude.